Hello, welcome to NC Exclusive. I'm Benga Aboroa. Our guest this evening is a social justice advocate and politics and governance expert with a career of over 30 years rooted in law and spanning across social activism, judicial, constitutional and political arenas. She is an accomplished lawyer and politician who played an important role in the founding and development of Kenya's pluralistic politics in a bid to expand democratic spaces in Kenya in the 1980s and 1990s. The role of women in Kenya politics has greatly benefited by her efforts and exemplary career as a founder of organizations such as the League of Kenyan Women Voters and leading women's advocacy through FIDA. She actively lobbied for increased women representation in political positions. Her prestigious career in public service stems from her 20 years as a member of parliament in Gichugu constituency, Minister of Water and Public Works, and Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. Beside her impeccable track record, she holds an LLB from the University of Nairobi and master's degree in business administration from USIU Africa. Our guest this evening is Honorable Martha Wangari Karua, Senior Counsel, former Minister of Justice of the Republic of Kenya and the National Rainbow Coalition Party leader. A very good evening to you, Honorable Karua. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Georges blocked the Constitutional Amendment Bill, popularly known as the Building Bridges Initiative, BBI. They said it was irregular, illegal and unconstitutional. President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga argued that the proposed constitutional changes will end the winner-takes-all structure of Kenyan politics, which is often followed by deadly violence. You described, in your words, you described the BBI project as a return to autocratic rule, to an imperial president who is not accountable to parliament, and to a parasitic model of government. What is your assessment of the BBI initiative, and why are you vehemently opposed to it?
I'll begin by saying that there is an appeal that has been argued, heard, and I was part of the team that responded to that appeal by the government. And the ruling will be on 20th of August. So I am constrained not to discuss too much the matters that are pending before the court. But it is true that I've been a vehement opponent of BBI, and the description you have given is exactly what it is. We feel that these are not amendments to the Constitution, but a backdoor overhaul of the Constitution. These are the questions pending before the Court of Appeal. Whether it is proper for the BBI proponents to change the system of governance in our country from a purely presidential system of government with checks and balances to taking us back to a hybrid system where you merge the executive and parliament by appointing ministers, cabinet ministers from parliament, where you allow the executive to extend its hand into the judiciary through a purported judicial ombudsman who we view as a government inspector going to interfere with judicial independence. And literally, these are the questions pending before the court. And if I were to put it together, I would say the question is, can Parliament or anybody for that matter alter the basic structure of the Constitution without resorting to the primary constituent power of the people?
Which is the people?
This would entail explaining to the people through civic education the proposed amendments, giving time for discussion and giving time for the public to distill, so that the amendments passed are not passed through the hype of politicians interpreting and telling them what it is, yet in reality, it may not be what it is. We all know that when politicians are explaining, there'll be exaggerations, outright falsehoods. People need to know exactly what they're doing, and those are the arguments pending before the court.
Now, Honourable Karua, the BBI initiative consisted of a series of 78 proposed amendments to the Constitution of Kenya. You described it as a backdoor way of trying to get the Constitution amendment. It spanned 13 of its 18 chapters. You were instrumental and you were part of the Constitution amendment process that birthed the current 2010 Constitution in Kenya. In what ways is the current Constitution inadequate, and in what ways, in what areas do you think it needs reform? Because the initiators of the BBI initiative must have felt, the 2010 Constitution doesn't meet the needs and requirements of the citizenry, hence the proposal. So, as someone that was instrumental, that understands the 2010 Constitution of Kenya, in what ways does it lack, and what areas would need reforms?
I would once again see these are the questions pending before the court, but you put it very well, that the BBI was proposing 78 amendments. You will, in Kenya, we all know that our independence constitution was mutilated, dissembled through amendments to a point where it was unrecognizable. The total amendments since independence in 1963 to 2010, when we reviewed and enacted a new constitution, were 39. Compare that to the 78 being proposed in a single sweeping amendment bill. Can the public understand or distill 78 combined amendments spanning 13 of the 18 chapters of the Constitution? Are these amendments or an overhaul? Those are the questions. An amendment, through definition of what an amendment is in English language, are minor alterations. Can the 78 proposals amount to minor? And I've already said they affect the chapter on system of government. They add to the powers of the executive. And when we overhauled our constitution, one of the thorny issues was that we did not want an imperial presidency. We wanted power to be shared. There are many, many other areas which go to the basic structure of the Constitution, people's power of amendment. Can the executive use the clause that gives people power, the ordinary citizen, power to initiate constitutional amendment to bring proposals? Or should the executive only use the route through Parliament, which is open to them, by tabling amendments? In any event, all executive bills brought in Parliament have priority. Why does the executive want to play the role of executive and usurp the powers of the citizen? These are the questions pending before the court. And once again, I will say that this, in our view, is an attempt to dissemble, to overhaul, to replace our constitution before implementation. And that is the question pending before the court, whether the court finds in our favor or finds in the favor of the proponents of BBI.
And like you said, it doesn't even take a constitutional lawyer to know that a lot of the proposals violate the principles of separation of powers, but would find out on August 20th when the court decides on the appeal for BBI. Now, Honourable Karua, let's move to Linda Katiba. It's an initiative you lead. It's a citizens' voluntary initiative that is determined to resist the government-led move to unconstitutionally cannibalize and overthrow the will of the people of Kenya, encapsulated in the 2010 Constitution. What is Linda Katiba and why does it matter?
Linda Katiba is an association of individuals and organizations that feel duty-bound to defend the Constitution of Kenya. After all, the Constitution of Kenya places a duty on every citizen to uphold and defend it. So we are just doing our civic duty of defending the Constitution. And if we don't do that, then we will have ourselves to blame. And I am glad that among the citizens who went to court and who got a judgment in the High Court, halting BBI and declaring it unconstitutional, were two conveners of Linda Katiba and many other citizens. Even now, we are calling upon citizens to remain vigilant because as we speak, Parliament has initiated a parliamentary initiative to amend the Constitution, which again violates the basic structure. Parliament is a party to the ongoing litigation, which is at the appeal stage, and it's quite mischievous of them to table similar amendments to those declared by the High Court unconstitutional without waiting for the ruling of the court on the 20th. In our view, they are in contempt of court, and their efforts from the Linda Katiba initiative to ensure that this again is prosecuted.
Karua, away from BBI, we've seen quite a disturbing pattern of the current administration of President Uhuru Kenyatta disobeying court orders, the Minguna incident and others. As a former Justice Minister and Senior Counsel, what is the implication of this? And are there any justifiable reasons to disobey court orders, national security reasons perhaps?
May I begin by saying there are no justifiable circumstances of disobeying a court order and undermining the rule of law. In fact, the executive is actually entrenching impunity. The 2010 Constitution, among other things, was expected to usher in an era of nurturing the rule of law and constitutionalism. And what is being done by the executive in Kenya today undermines the Constitution. And that is why we are justified as citizens to doubt that there can be any genuine move to amend the Constitution, which the executive keeps on viewing and openly describing as an inconvenience. One of our arguments before the court, which is pending ruling, is that the executive, the modern day dictators, are actually using constitutional amendments to undermine the rule of law and constitutionalism. And we view the proposals by BBI as such, and we are waiting to see whether the court rules in our favor, because these are purported amendments that actually undermine the very Constitution, undermine constitutionalism, undermine the rule of law. Anybody interested in the Constitution, whether an individual or the executive, would begin by honoring the Constitution, not violating it. Serial violators of the Constitution cannot be the best people to purport to give, in quotes, good faith amendments to the Constitution. And for the cyclic violence after post-election violence in Kenya and tension, its root cause is electoral injustice. Nothing in BBI
addresses that,
proposes anything to cure that. So it is not genuine to say that BBI will cure electoral injustice. All we need from where we sit is to implement the Constitution faithfully, make sure that elections are transparent, fair, accountable, and verifiable. And that will sort out the issue of who is a winner. There cannot be two winners on any election, on any context. There should be one winner who has won fairly and square. And that's what we need by implementing the Constitution that we have today.
Now, Honorable Martha Karua, you've been described as a politician that is cut from a different cloth, not your typical politician. They have often referred to you as the conscience of Kenya. We have seen development in Kenya where the president and these deputy president, William Ruto, do not see eye to eye. It's been locked out of, his constitutional duties as vice president. A typical politician, since you belong to the opposition, would be happy with that development. You could explore the cracks in the Jubilee Party and take advantage of that. But you've been very vocal, and you're not really happy that things aren't going well between the Vice President and the President, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta. Why is that?
We have taken whatever advantage we can, but we would be wrong in not commenting on the unconstitutionality of beings as they are. Under our constitution, the president runs for office with a running mate, a deputy president. Same way as a governor runs with a running mate, a deputy governor. The president or the governor cannot fire a running mate midterm. If there is disagreement which they cannot resolve, they have an option of dissolving government and seeking mandate with the people, or finding a way of working with each other. And it is not open to the president to utilize his office as though it were personal property, to lock out his deputy. And I'm not just talking about Uhuru Kenyatta, any president for that matter.
Regardless of the internal politics and workings.
The internal politics of it. In fact, most of the times, even in civil service and in public life, you work with people whom you disagree with, but you find a way of working together because you are duty-bound to deliver to the people. But to entertain a situation where the disagreement obviously hurts the nation, creates tension, creates an untenable situation that I would only describe as the executive behaving badly. The presidency consists of the office of the president and that of the deputy. It has no room of one using their might to edge out the other. If you cannot arrive at a gentleman's agreement, agree to disagree on the matters that you must, but find a way of working with one another, especially now that it's just 1 year remaining. And it's unfortunate because in Kenya, we have very many governors who mistreat their deputies. By doing what he is doing, the president sort of legitimizes. But it is not for me to take sides on the internal affairs of Jubilee, but from a public point of view and how it relates to governance in the country, we do comment and we say this is not right. Yes.
And like you rightly said, in elections, they both appear on the ballot box, so the interest of the electorate should come first, regardless of personal politics between them. Just before we begin to wrap things up, Honorable Karua, politics in Kenya, as seen in a lot of African countries, is heavily reliant on financial muscle and handouts. A lot of people have weaponized, politicians have weaponized poverty, and a lot of personality politics is done without much conversation on substance, on the issues and manifesto of the political parties. What can we do as Africans to change this and elect leaders based on their credentials?
It is a most unfortunate situation, and it is the reality. And I'm saying this is a wake-up call to professionals, to the elites of Africa. You cannot remain disinterested. It is incumbent on professionals, on elites, to join political parties. You realize that most of the elites and professionals stay aloof. Parties consist of those running for office as myself and many others, but the real majority in any party are the grassroots, the people who are actually dealing with bread and butter issues. It is not that they are not possessed of intelligence and common sense, but on a daily basis, their worry is the next meal. So that handout, if it's the next meal, will cloud judgment. But if we have a critical mass of the elite who can actually fund political parties, contribute to policy, hold leaders to account, it will be the beginning of new politics in Africa. Because a person like me wishing to run for national office without deep pockets, the members of my party will fund my party and we will be able to do this nationally. We'll also be able, county by county, to support candidates for governorship, for members of county assembly, for national assembly, and for every election. Most importantly, a critical mass of the elite and professionals will be able to hold party leadership to account and even to force party members who are in leadership behaving badly out of the party or to discipline them. So if we leave it to only those running for office and the grassroots, we are actually, as professionals and the elite, the cause of the problems in Africa. And I keep on asking in my country, which applies to many other places in Africa, when the elite run after even people who they know are not suitable, because you have a hope of winning either government positions or contracts, just how many of the elites, of the professionals can get government contracts? Isn't it better that we get a leadership that gives us an enabling environment which will propel our country to a place where it is not the person you know, it's your expertise that gets you that business, that contract, much like happened during the first term of President Mwai Kibaki. And Kenya made a lot of honest millionaires. The ordinary person had money in their pocket because the wealth was circulating among the citizens. Now wealth is being made, but trickling down to very few pockets, and a majority are suffering. So hear ye, the elite, the professionals of Africa, we are a letdown to Africa. Let us arise and take up our civic responsibility.
Very important message there, Honorable Karua, that needs to be echoed around the corners of Africa. It's quite a disturbing situation, money politics. Now, let's talk about your political future. You were in Parliament for 20 years. You contested the 2013 Kenyan presidential elections under the NARC-Kenya party ticket. You made a comeback in Kenya's political scene in 2017 general election in a heavily contested election for a gubernatorial seat in Kirinyaga County. What is the future for you in politics? Are you interested in the 2022 elections, and in what capacity?
I'm running for Governor Kirinyaga, but I haven't finished business with Kenya's presidency. But politically, at 63, I consider myself politically young. I have a chance to serve the people of Kirinyaga as governor, and thereafter consider the unfinished national business of Kenya's presidency. So I'm still a product in the political market, and I'm ready, able, and willing to serve my country. Because if it's not me, who else? And this is the question we must ask ourselves as professionals, as the elite. And those of us who can't run, support candidates you know can make a difference at the various levels. I have stepped up the plate to be counted, and I urge each one of us to do the same.
Finally, Honorable Karua, before we wrap things up, what's your message to Kenyans, the citizens, as we inch towards the 2022 general elections, which is in about 13 months or exactly a year from now?
Is that our fate is in our hands. Let us, at all stages, uphold and defend our constitution so that any talk of postponing elections must be rejected. We must make sure that our elections are in August 2022 without fail, and we must make the right choices. We must join political parties of choice and support candidates of choice. And to remember, if we do it the same way we've been doing, the difference will be the same. We have to think, how can I be an agent of change? Each one of us and all of us together are the answer to Kenya's problems and to Africa's problems. Thank you.
And on that note, I would like to say a big thank you to you, Honorable Martha Karua. Thank you very much for talking to us at News Central. We do appreciate your insight and candor, and we wish you all the best for the future.
Thank you for having me. And we must say that Africa and Africans must take charge of their destiny.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Honorable Karua.
Thank you, bye.
And that concludes NC Exclusive for today. Our guest has been Honorable Martha Karua, former Justice Minister of the Republic of Kenya, Senior Counsel and NARC political party leader, and Benga Aborowa. Until next time, on NC Exclusive.